The goal is to win another championship.
That is the goal right now, and that is the motivation right now.
I ain't choose the game chose me. I'm a champion, I need some trophy.
This would definitely be a trio to be reckoned with.
LeBron James delivering AD dynamite.
Westbrook, he just doesn't stop.
I'm a champion, I need some trophy.
The Lakers, they are not messing around, guys, and neither are we, because we have quite the show for you today. What's going on, everybody? Welcome on into First Take. I'm Charlie Arnold.
Stephen A. Smith.
You know, where is Stephen A? That's a good question.
I'm better looking. I'm the better looking version, so I got you, Max.
Well, I saw him yesterday. You know, he was still reacting to all the news that we're going to get to, but he was casual. He was cool. So clearly taking a few days off after a very busy last month. But guys, we got Max Kellerman, Sam Acho. Hope you both are doing well. But let's get right into it, because LeBron James finally getting his wish, and that is to play a season with his boy Carmelo Anthony. Melo, now a Laker, signing a one-year deal yesterday in the franchise's quest for gold. Melo, in his 13 career playoff appearances, has only reached the conference finals once and has yet to play in the NBA Finals. Now, the Lakers added 8 free agents to their roster in less than 2 days, including future Hall of Famers Carmelo Anthony and also Dwight Howard. Pairing Anthony with LeBron James means the Lakers now have 2 of the top 10 scorers in NBA history. And guys, look, it's First Take. You know, we love to speculate early, and now that we have a big 3 on both coasts, we have Kyrie, KD, and Harden for the Nets, and then also LeBron, AD, and Russell Westbrook on the Lakers, along with several other key additions in LA. I got to ask you, Max, should the Lakers be favorites over the Nets to win the championship next year?
No, they shouldn't. They have a legitimate answer now. They have 3 different kinds of cats, but they shouldn't be favored to beat the Nets. Let's not forget that the Nets were humiliating the eventual champions. The Bucks were getting crushed. Harden wasn't playing. James Harden, game for game, was the best player in the NBA in the regular season this year, playing the best basketball of a career that's included MVPs, right? And he was better than ever. Didn't play, and the Lakers were wiping the floor. Sorry, the Nets were wiping the floor with the Bucks. What if they had all 3 guys? See, the thing about the Lakers' big 3 that they just put together the surrounding cast, right? The thing about the Lakers' big 3 is, at best, they're average shooters for their position. LeBron's about an average shooter for his position. Maybe AD is also. Westbrook is not, right? The Nets, big 3. I want you to listen to this closely, Sam. See if you can contradict what I'm saying here. See if you detect any lies, okay?
I'm already detecting lies, Max.
Well,
go ahead.
You'll have a chance to tell me all about it. The Nets' big 3, each guy at his position, is the best overall scorer at his size in NBA history. All 3 guys can score in more ways at a higher level than anyone who ever lived at their size. All 3 guys. It's too much shooting against a team that doesn't have enough. Lakers did great in the offseason, not enough to take over the number 1 slot preseason from the Nets.
2 of the top 10 scores in NBA history now, though.
Yeah, Carmelo Anthony once upon a time. And by the way, Carmelo was useful. But Sam, you know what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the 3 best scorers at their size who ever lived. And they all still got it. Lakers need a little more.
Yeah, Max, I hear what you're saying, but I'm detecting lies because, yes, they may have the 3 best scorers at their size. And, yes, Harden, as you mentioned, game for game may have had the best season of his career. But remember, James Harden wasn't healthy the whole season. Remember, James Harden in the playoffs, oftentimes his production decreases. Let's not forget that when you bring superstars together, it doesn't always work. I'm reminded of my chemistry class, right? In chemistry, we all took chemistry. You put a bunch of elements together and they make something new. And sometimes these elements will make an amazing new kind of creation. And other times it'll blow up in your face. And I think what we're seeing with Brooklyn is that we're not seeing all these pieces come together to make something greater. You see James Harden, who's super talented. You see KD, super talented. You see Kyrie, super talented. But when they play together, they don't always mesh. But when I go to the Lakers and I go to LeBron James, right? LeBron James in the last 11 years has been to every single final when he's been healthy. Obviously, 2019. Wasn't healthy. They didn't go. Obviously, last year, LeBron wasn't healthy. They didn't go. So it's more than just about the talent you have when it comes to scoring. It's also about what kind of leader are you? If I'm picking a team, Max, you can look at me as however you want to look at me. If I'm picking a team, I'm picking a LeBron James-led team every single day of the week.
Get to the finals. Sam, we're assuming they're both in the finals. He doesn't always win the finals, LeBron. He's not Michael Jordan.
I'm believing that they're winning the finals. I'm picking LeBron and Russ. And we all said, okay, well, they got Russ. They need spacing. They need a shooter. All of a sudden, they get Carmelo. They get spacing. They get a shooter. I'm taking a LeBron James-led team to win the finals more than I am against KD or Kyrie or James Harden. Yes, James Harden has great stats during the regular season. We talk about that. But James Harden's stats always drop off during the postseason.
I agree with that.
Let that be known. Let that be known. And so let's not talk as if put these big three together and all of a sudden you're going to see greatness. We're not always going to see greatness. Look what
Harden doesn't need to score 50 points a game for them to win on this team. We saw it in the regular season. He could score 23 points and have 15 assists and get everyone involved. Sam, what year are you making this argument in? You're talking about Carmelo Anthony and stuff from 10 years ago, but I'm not even talking about that. I'm talking about you're a day late and a dollar short with this one. The time to make that argument about the Nets was last year before you saw them on the court together, albeit it was brief when they played together. But what they showed is any two of those guys is better than everybody else. Any two of those guys. Again, I want to just say this again. Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving, neither one was as good as James Harden in the regular season last year. Think about that. Now, I agree that he falls off in the playoffs, but when you're falling off from the top of Mount Everest, you're still above most guys' heads, right? Now, without Harden, who was the glue, who was the facilitator, who's the guy who really made it work as a team, they wiped the floor with the eventual champion Milwaukee Bucks. It was embarrassing. And no one in the world believes the Bucks beat that team if they don't get hurt, right? They almost beat them and they did get hurt. Just with KD. Just with KD, Sam. If this wasn't on the line, they win.
Max, check me out. You're talking about Brooklyn, and if Brooklyn stays healthy, they win. Everyone was talking about LeBron and the Lakers. If they stay healthy, they would have won. They would have been in the finals. We all know that. So a healthy LeBron, a healthy AD. Mind you, LeBron missed 26 games last year. LeBron was limping into the playoffs. AD got hurt. Remember, let's not forget the team that went to the NBA Finals, the Phoenix Suns. LeBron and his Lakers, they were up 2-1 against the Suns. They were up 2-1. They were also up at halftime, and then AD gets hurt. And then all of a sudden the series changes. And so, yes, a healthy Brooklyn team is talented, but a healthy Lakers team, let's not forget, you said a dollar short and a day late. Last year we were all talking about the Lakers going to and winning an NBA championship.
No, not winning. Stop right there. No. Let me tell you something. I was with you with the Nets to begin with, Sam. I was like, hold up. Let's see if this works with Kyrie and Harden in the backcourt, right? This is not like Devin Booker and Chris Paul. You know, this is gonna look good. Let's see. I have to say, when AD was out, the two of them were the best team in the league by themselves. Now you're forgetting something else. Like, they already showed they could do it, and they were going to beat the Lakers. No one was going to take them, including the Lakers, 7 games if the Nets were healthy. You're forgetting something else. They added Blake Griffin, who we all thought was done. He hadn't dunked in a year and a half. And then he posterized Giannis. Now, Sam, what does that mean that he posterized Giannis? Blake Griffin's game was never, he's going to kill you from the outside, dazzle you with footwork. If that dude is posterizing Giannis, that means he physically got it. Blake Griffin is the number 4 on that team. The number 4.
So Max, what happened? What happened? Why isn't Brooklyn? Why doesn't Brooklyn have a ring right now? Why aren't they doing a parade? Why aren't we crowning them champions? What happened? What happened?
What happened was James Harden had to force himself out of Houston to get to Brooklyn. In order to do that, he had to fall out of shape. He showed up fat and out of shape. Still rolled out of bed looking like a hot mess and was a walking 30-point triple-double in Brooklyn in wins against the best teams in the West. Don't let this dude have an offseason to get in shape now.
Bingo. So you said he had a so you're talking about James Harden as a leader. You called James Harden the glue guy for that team. If you're picking James Harden as the glue for your team, as the leader for your team, as the guy who's going to win you an NBA championship, I'm going to beat you every day of the week when I have LeBron on my team. James Harden's not a glue guy. You're talking about this guy getting out of shape. You're talking about this guy not staying healthy. Look at LeBron. Look at Steph Curry. Look at these guys who invest hundreds of millions of dollars in their bodies. What is James Harden doing right now? You think he's investing hundreds of millions of dollars in his body, or you see him in Paris partying? I'm just saying, if I'm picking a leader to help me win an NBA championship, I am going with LeBron James.
His weapons,
base it off of history.
His weapons, I just want to remind you, James Harden by himself, right? Because Chris Paul got hurt, faced the Warriors team that no one had a chance against. KD, Clay, Steph, Dre, Iggy. No one had a shot. He was by himself. And he and his team had the worst shooting night in the history of the NBA. 0 for 27 at one point from three. Game 7.
He and his team.
Yeah, in Game 7.
Team.
Sam, they lost by single digits to that Warriors team. Now, his number 2 option right now ain't Trevor Ariza, brother. He's got the ball. He's got Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving. Not to mention Blake Griffin. And you guys who can shoot the lights out on that team, it's a problem.
Okay, well, this is a perfect time to transition because you just brought up the Warriors. And guys, get this big news. 2-time NBA MVP and 3-time champ Steph Curry has agreed to a 4-year, $215 million contract extension with the Warriors, making him the first player in history to sign 2 $200 million plus contracts. This deal ties Curry to the Warriors through the rest of his prime and solidifies the franchise's pursuit of a 4th NBA title with a core that includes all-stars Klay Thompson and also Draymond Green. That is a lot of money. Good for him getting the bag. So, Sam, I got to ask you now, are the Warriors a threat to win the West? Because right now you're betting on the Lakers, it sounds like.
I am, and the Warriors aren't a threat to win the West. Now, I'm high on the Warriors. Don't get me wrong. I'm a huge Steph Curry fan. I think they've done great in the offseason. Nemanja Bjelica, they've got this stretch big who can shoot the ball. So I like what the Warriors are doing, but I'm still high on the Lakers. Once again, and not even the Lakers. I'm high on the West. Like, the West is strong. So you've got Utah, you've got Rudy Gobert, Donovan Mitchell, you've got Phoenix, who's still getting better. I believe that Chris Paul is going to play at a high level. I believe that you're going to see Mikal Bridges come in and help. I believe you're going to see DeAndre Ayton play better. I believe that Phoenix is still there. You've got Utah. Let's not forget about Memphis, who beat in the play-in Golden State. And so I believe that Golden State, they're getting there, but I don't think they can get over the hump right now. I am high on Golden State, but I still think there are 3, maybe even 4 teams that are better than them in the Western Conference.
Well, I appreciate your points. I think they're good ones, but I think you're a little too high on something if you think they don't have a shot to win the West. Sam, I get high on the NBA. Look, you look at this team right now with 3 future Hall of Famers. Now, I'm presuming Clay comes back as Clay, okay? Great two-way player, no one in the history of the NBA capable of getting hotter than Clay. Think about that. He had a season where he dropped 26 in one quarter, and that was his second best quarter of that year because he had a 37-point quarter, which is the all-time record, and he did it on no dribbles. Clay, if Clay comes back and is Klay Thompson, and there's Steph and there's Dre, there's their core, right? That's what makes the Warriors the Warriors. Now, what have they added to that? Because Andrew Wiggins, the former number 1 overall pick, was, I don't know if you call him a bust, but he was a disappointment, right? You can't say, at a certain point, you have to stop measuring him compared to the expectations of being picked number 1 overall. Was he a good player, both ends of the floor last year? Yeah, he was. And he could shoot it too. And he could play defense. And he's super athletic, and he's in his physical prime. That's 4 guys. That is an above average starter at a position where it's hard to find that, okay? Now, Wiseman, Pascal, Poole. They added 2 young athletic guys who aren't going to see a lot of minutes presumably now, but it's fresh legs off the bench with talent. You tell me that those guys don't have a chance in the West? Oh, they got a chance, Sam. They got a chance. You got to give them a chance.
But are you picking them, Max? Are you picking them over LA? You're making a lot of presumptions, which I respect, right? You're presuming that Brooklyn's healthy. You're presuming that Klay comes back as Klay. Those are a lot of presumptions, right? Let's assume as well that Jamal Murray comes back healthy with the Joker, the league's MVP. If we add those teams in, that's a lot. That's a lot. So, yes, they have a chance, but you're talking about them beating LA, beating Utah, beating Denver. That's a lot to ask when there are a lot of presumptions that you're making.
You're right, but you named teams with a chance. Look, we both like the Lakers out of the West, right? Okay, there's a presumption.
Yep.
I'm presuming we both like the Lakers out of the West, assuming health, right? Okay. Does Denver have a shot? Check. Yes, they got a shot. Does Phoenix have a shot? Yes, they got a shot. Clippers don't have a shot because they ain't got Kawhi, so we can put them aside. Do the Warriors have a shot? I'm not talking about the Portland Trailblazers. I'm talking about Steph, Clay, Dre, Wiggins, and all these young guys they have. They don't have a shot, but Denver does, and the Phoenix Suns do?
The Phoenix Suns, Max, you're talking about the Phoenix Suns that just went to the NBA Finals. The Phoenix Suns that many of us thought would win the NBA Finals, Max.
Lucky.
Yes, they have a shot, but you're presuming a lot. You're presuming health. Klay hasn't been healthy in a couple years, right? We saw what Golden State is with an unhealthy Klay. Better yet, without Klay. They didn't even make the NBA playoffs. They lost in the play-in tournament to the Memphis Grizzlies. And yes, I'm high on Ja Morant, so I'm not trying to talk down on Memphis. But you're presuming so much. I don't live my life, and I don't know how you live your life, Max, right? We're doing this first show together. Me and you, I love it.
Sam. I live it pretty well.
I don't live my life. You live it based off presumptions. You be presuming a lot. Let me presume that, today's no rain. Like, you can't just presume things. Go on history. Go on stats.
Let's go on history. Real quick, let's go on
Yes,
history. I know we have some breaking
please.
news. Let me just say, Phoenix went to the finals. They were favored to win. That only happened because first AD went down because they were down 2-1.
Yes.
You brought it up before. And then Kawhi
Yes.
didn't play at all. Or else no finals for Phoenix. If the Nets didn't get hurt, no finals for the Bucks. The Phoenix wouldn't have gotten out of the first round had the Lakers not been hurt, okay? So don't tell me the Warriors have no shot against Phoenix.
Max, let's not forget, Phoenix had the second best record in the West. So
Yeah,
let's not
they're
act like
excellent.
Phoenix
The
just
West is a
stumbled
beast.
upon. Let's not act like they stumbled upon this victory. They accidentally made it to the finals. Phoenix is good. Phoenix is solid. And we saw some of their superstars didn't play well. I think DeAndre Ayton will play better. I think that will happen. Right? I think Devin Booker, it's not a presumption.
Just
I think
concede
Devin
the
Booker.
argument. You could just say, you know what, you're right. They have a shot. It's okay.
No one concedes any arguments on this show. Come on, we know that much. Okay, guys, look, there's a lot of competition in the West. We do know that, but let's give Steph Curry his props. He's already the Warriors' all-time franchise leader in points, assists, and threes. He's also only 79 steals away from becoming the leader in that department as well. But we do have to move on because, wow, do we have a lot to get to. Some breaking news happening in the meantime. And guess what? This includes the New York Knicks. Also, the Bulls also making big moves this offseason. We'll get Max's ceiling for Chicago after adding both Lonzo Ball and DeMar DeRozan. Plus, you all know I'm a Colts fan. I'm wondering, do the Colts need to bring back Philip Walker? Has agreed to a contract buyout with the Oklahoma City Thunder. And upon clearing waivers, gentlemen, listen to this, plans to sign with the New York Knicks. Sources telling our Adrian Wojnarowski. So, Max, let's start with you. What's your reaction to this news?
It's a nice fit. He's first of all from the area. Secondly, and that's not even first of all. First of all, he's a very good player. He's like a mini Kyrie Irving, but a good locker room guy, a leader, all that stuff. He's undersized, so there are defensive issues and all that. But there's a bigger issue here. For all the hype about the Knicks, they're now locked in long term to a team whose ceiling is the second round. We know they're not getting to a conference finals with this team. It's like a typical Tibbs team so far. But it'd be one thing if they had flexibility going forward. But they're locked in long term. We saw in the playoffs, Julius Randle is at best really a third best option on a championship caliber team. Maybe a second best option on a championship contender. He's not a first option. Unless, Sam, so Kemba's a nice fit, but it's indicative of the fact that the Knicks have once again stalled in this latest kind of reboot where people are getting enthusiastic about it. They're once again in a position where they're unlikely to really break through and contend for a title based on the commitments they have to the players. The one guy,
Phillip Rivers, retired. And so I think it actually is a good move for Carson because now it's good for everyone. It's good for Indy because they have a team and they have a quarterback that can win right now. It's good for Carson. He gets a chance to recover. But the only issue is he's not playing this year. But I still think that it's better than maybe a
good for Wentz. It's good for Wentz, and I'll tell you why.
It's good for Wentz.
Because Wentz has a little more time to learn things while he recovers. They're not going to win a Super Bowl with Phillip Rivers. They're going to feel like they need something more. And now Wentz just bought himself a couple of years. First year back, maybe a quasi-catastrophic injury, new system. He's going to have some runway. He's going to have some leeway to play with here. And if he shows any promise, then there will be those in the organization a coach who's had success with him before who think, wait a minute, we got it now. I think this buys Carson Wentz a couple more seasons in Indy.
Yeah, it does. It does. And I think initially I heard Phillip Rivers say he's thinking about coming back. And I think, okay, don't think about it. Just sign right now. But then the point of Carson Wentz, it does buy him more time because of this. You get a chance to sit back and learn from a guy who's been in the league longer than you. Phillip Rivers has been through ups and downs. San Diego struggled, and they got good, and then struggled. They were good. So you can learn from him. This actually could extend your playing career. Sometimes I think what people forget is they want to get in right now. I want to be the star. I want to shine, right? First overall pick. But we often forget that Patrick Mahomes sat and watched and learned. Tom Brady sat and watched and learned. Aaron Rodgers sat and watched and learned. And so let's not, I think people put a lot of stock in getting in right now and shining, but there's benefit in sitting back and watching and learning. Phillip Rivers signing with Indianapolis, I believe, could be the best thing for Carson Wentz this year. It takes the pressure off. You can sit, you can watch, you can learn, you can get healthy, and then you can come back in the future and help them win even more.
You're saying it's win-win-win.
It's win-win-win all the way around. It's a win-win-win. Now, all we need is for Phillip Rivers to say yes. Mind you, he said he wasn't in greatest shape. He said he hadn't been running.
That dude is coming back. Get all the way out of here. Phillip Rivers, he's putting his cleats on right now. What are you?
Yeah, he's done coaching in Alabama.
Hey, just sign the dotted line. Sign the dotted line. I don't need any conversation. He's over here. I'll think about it. You know, I got to get a lather. No, sign the dotted line.
Okay, well, you say win-win-win. I really hope the Colts can do just that, and I hope Phillip Rivers is the guy to help them do so because, listen, the first 5 games of the season for the Colts, the Seahawks, Rams, Titans, Dolphins, and Ravens, went to combined 54-26 last season, 4 of those teams making the playoffs. So the Colts need to be ready. All right, guys, let's keep it moving. We still got a whole lot more to get to. Right here on First Take, Sam Acho with a scorching hot take. Speaking of which, on Raiders head coach John Gruden, you do not want to miss this. Plus, it's safe to say Max has a man crush on Chargers quarterback Justin Herbert. Max says Herbert has more trade value than... Time for Camp Takes, y'all. According to our friends at Caesars Sportsbook, Kansas City is the overwhelming favorite to win their division for the 5th consecutive season, while both Denver and LA are tied for the second shortest odds at 6-1. Let's focus in on second-year quarterback Justin Herbert right now, though. Sam, you think that he's a top 3 quarterback following this season?
I absolutely do believe that Justin Herbert's going to be a top 3 quarterback by the time this season ends. And here's why. We talk about his arm talent. There's no questions about that. But he has the coach to get him there. So Brandon Staley, he's the new head coach of the LA Chargers. Brandon Staley just coached the #1 defense we saw we do it in LA last year with the LA Rams. He coached me in Chicago, #1 defense 2018. But Brandon Staley is a former quarterback. Brandon Staley coaches defenses from a quarterback's perspective. So Brandon Staley is in Justin Herbert's ear, teaching him everything he needs to know to be the best quarterback in the game. He's got the arm talent, but we always know it's not just about the arm talent. It's about the coaching. It's about the culture. It's about the fit. It's about the match. And let's not say that the LA Chargers don't have the team in place to do it. You've got Keenan Allen, who's one of the best receivers in the game. You've got a defense. No one's talking about Derwin James. No one's talking about Kenneth Murray at linebacker. No one's talking about Joey Bosa at defensive line. So they've got the defense to challenge Kansas City. They've got the team and they've got the coach. I think Justin Herbert will hands down be a top 3 quarterback by the time this season ends.
This is how I would put it. First of all, I disagree. I don't think he'll be top 3, and I thought I was Justin Herbert's biggest fan. By the way, he will be on the Max Kellerman Show on ESPN Radio, 2 p.m. Eastern. Is when the show starts on ESPN Radio, Sirius XM Channel 80, the ESPN app. You can download the podcast.
Let him know. I think higher of him than you do, because apparently he's a quarterback.
This is what I said. I thought people would accuse me of being hyperbolic when he was ranked 9th in Madden, and I said I actually think by the end of the season there's a chance he might be top 5. Here's the problem with putting him top 3. I presume it's Patrick Mahomes and Aaron Rodgers. Those are the 2 immovable objects in the top 3. Sam, am I right? I want to see Sam because I want to make sure that I'm right about it.
Look at me. You're absolutely right about that.
Okay, those two, and then there's no one else that special, and so you're putting him there. The problem is Tom Brady just had a tremendous year and won the Super Bowl. He didn't just make a deep run. Well, his team was loaded, true, but he did win the freaking Super Bowl and did face Aaron Rodgers and Patrick Mahomes on the way, right? So it's hard for me to leave Brady out of the top 3 until proven otherwise. Russell Wilson, not last year, but over the last 5 or 6 years, if you said who's been the best player overall in football over the last half dozen years, probably Russell Wilson. Tough to replace him. Beyond that, I would say this. I get it. I'd phrase it like this. Justin Herbert has more trade value, maybe than anyone in football. Because Mahomes got $500 million coming, right? Justin Herbert's on his rookie deal 1 year in. If Trevor Lawrence pans out this year, he'll be where Justin Herbert is now. Justin Herbert's on. Joe Burrow hasn't proven it yet. Trevor Lawrence hasn't proven it yet. Honestly, as good as Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson are, I don't think they're as talented as Justin Herbert. So I think his trade value is enormous, and he has a chance to join Mahomes and Rodgers in that top three eventually. I don't think it's going to be this season, but I do think top five is certainly possible.
And Max, I hear you. But the only point that you really made, the only other person you could put in there is the GOAT, Tom Brady, which I believe, yes, he just won a Super Bowl. Like, he's a baller. We can't argue against Tom Brady. But what we can say is that the LA Chargers have gotten better at every position. They went and drafted Rashawn Slater to protect his blind side. We all saw Joe Burrow get injured because he had no protection. So they've gotten better on the offensive line. They've gotten better from a coaching perspective. They've gotten better from a defensive perspective. And yes, Russell Wilson over the last 6, 8, 10 years, you could say he's been one of the top players, but we're not talking about the past. We're not talking about the rear view. We're not talking about what happened in 2016 and 17. I'm talking about right now, Max. Right now.
First half
not a long time
ago.
And right now, Justin Herbert looks as good as anybody in the league. Yes, Patrick Mahomes is number one. Aaron Rodgers had an MVP season, 48 passing touchdowns, 4 rushing touchdowns.
And he was competing with those guys right out the gate. He was competing with Mahomes early in the season.
As a rookie quarterback without a coach. Now you've got a brilliant offense. So Brandon Staley has a photographic memory. This dude coached me back in Chicago. You have a brilliant
How many wins for the Chargers?
Mind.
Charlie's trying to get in here. How many wins for the Chargers? Quick.
They're winning. I think they get 10. I think they're 10-7, maybe 11-6. Yes. I'll give them 11-6.
And if we're staying in the right now, look, Justin Herbert, he only needs 29 passing touchdowns this season to become one of 2 players in NFL history, along with Dan Marino, to have 60-plus touchdowns in the first 2 seasons of their career. He is that good. Okay, let's stay in the AFC West, shall we?
Let him know you don't believe in him. Let him know you don't believe in him.
You get out of here with that.
All right, Gruden's return to the Raiders, not exactly gone according to plan. They have the 11th worst record in the league since his return in 2018 and allowing an NFL worst 28.4 points per game in that span. Ooh, not so great. Switching gears right there. Sam, should Gruden be on the hot seat at this point?
John Gruden should have already been fired by this point. I mean, here's the deal. We talk about a 10-year deal. They gave him a 10-year deal. But I'm a business major, business honors, marketing major, got my MBA. There's such thing as a sunk cost. John Gruden right now is a sunk cost for your team. Let me just name a couple names. So Theo Riddick, James Onwualu, Sam Young, all retired in training camp this last week. They all played for the Raiders. For John Gruden. They're like, you know what? I'm out of here. This sucks. I'm gone. Let me give you a couple other names. Brandon Dole, Mark Badane, Kirby Wilson. These are staff members who all retired under John Gruden's rule and reign. Now let me give you some numbers. 8-8, 7-9, 4-12, 6-10. Those are the records that we've seen the last 4 years from the Raiders. John Gruden is not the coach that's going to get this team over Kansas City. He's not the coach that's going to get this team over the LA Chargers. And John Gruden's not even the coach that's going to get this team over the Denver Broncos. I think because of John Gruden, the Raiders are going to be last in the division. They need a new coach, and they need a new coach now.
Hold on. They were what last year?
They were 8-8 last year.
So let's just track this. So he's going into his 4th season, correct, as head coach, right?
Yep.
He takes over a team. Now, they were 12-4 the year before, or a couple years before. And then they had a disappointing season at 6-10. Then they went 4-12 because he tore it down. He traded Khalil Mack. I don't think he knew he's going to be competing against Patrick Mahomes, or even that such a talent could exist at that time. Although they did beat Mahomes the year he won the Super Bowl, and I think that was at Kansas City. They had a really good win. 4-12. Okay, that's terrible because you tore it down. You're going to do it your way. 7-9. That's improvement. 8-8. That's improvement. Now, here's the thing. I agree if you say, you know what, it's not enough improvement given the amount of time. Except when you give a guy a 10-year contract, what you're saying is, we're playing the long game. You're sending him that message, the organization that message, and you understand that, presumably, that you're playing the long game. And so he's going to make decisions with his eye on the long-term prospects of the team, which means he's going to tear it all down and try to do it his way. Dealt Khalil Mack. So actually, 4-12, 7-9, 8-8 is trending in the right direction. In a division, by the way, with Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs. That's not a cupcake. If you're trending in the right direction, I can't say you should already be gone. What I can say is that you should be on the hot seat this year. In your fourth year, if you regress or if you're under 500, it's not enough. It's not enough to say, well, we're kind of a middle-of-the-pack team. At a certain point, you got to start making real noise. And I think the point is now. You want to say this year he goes, because they're going to play 17 games, 8-9, and say he's on the hot seat? Okay, but you want him already gone?
Max. Remember that maze you were telling me about? Remember that maze with the New York Knicks? You're like, you're going down the wrong path. Yep. All of a sudden, like, that's the exact same thing, if not worse. That's the exact same thing, if not worse. The Raiders are not getting better. You might say, oh, wow, they went 7-9. They went 8-8. That's not where you want to go. Like, you want to be an 8-8 team. You want to be an 8-9 team, a 9-8 team. Do you see them winning 10 games this year? No.
Why not?
They're not getting better. Max.
Why not? You don't have a quarterback.
Because of that $500 million dude, Patrick Mahomes, because of the dude that you love and I love. Apparently, I love him more than you, and Justin Herbert. They're not going to win. They're not even going to be top 2 in their division.
So what you're saying is that you can't invent a great quarterback. The quarterback whisperer can't just invent the guy. Carr is fine. He's solid, but he's in a division with super-duper star talents at quarterback. That's on Gruden, that he can't be an alchemist and turn Carr into Patrick Mahomes.
Max, you just told me about the long game, Max. You just told me about this grandeur, this amazing 10-year plan.
Very long game.
Max, they're 4 years in, and the next 3 years don't look pretty. Like, Patrick Mahomes is not
You're jumping
old.
the gun. You're reading the tea leaves and saying, therefore, he should have already been fired. 4-12, 7-9, 8-8 isn't therefore he should have already been gone.
Max, I don't know if you're one of these crazy Raider fans who got the little eye patch. I don't know what's going on in your head right now, Max. Max.
Big Blue, all the way.
I'm telling you, dude, you are tripping. Like, you are tripping. If you think that the Raiders will even compete this year, you think they'll be above 500.
I suspect you're right. I suspect he'll be on the hot seat halfway through this year. But a suspicion is different than evidence that he should already be gone. He's trending in the right direction. This is a make or break year, in my opinion, for John Gruden. Year 4 in a 10-year deal where every year they've improved.
Well, you think
the 10-year deal was a mistake. It was a mistake. Let's just admit that, Max. Let's just admit it. Just say you're wrong. It was a mistake.
I never said it
right.
was a good idea.
All good.
I never said it was a good idea.
Well, you'd think he'd be on the hot seat at this point, but he did say earlier in the week when he was talking to some reporters that he doesn't feel like the expectations are we need to win now. It's more of a long-term play like we were just talking about. He's off to a 19-29 start to his Raiders career, though, so something should probably change and pretty quickly. Okay, let's keep it moving, guys. We have some kind of interesting and very comical things to talk about, and that pertains to the breaking news. Get ready to see more moments like that at MSG from 4-time All-Star guard Kemba Walker, as he has agreed to a contract buyout from the Oklahoma City Thunder, and upon clearing waivers, plans to sign with the New York Knicks, sources telling our Adrian Wojnarowski. Kemba had 2 years, $74 million left on his deal. So, Max, what's your reaction to this news?
It's a good addition for the Knicks. Kemba Walker's a very popular guy in locker rooms around the league with fans. He is a tremendously skilled and talented player, but small. He's like a smaller version of Kyrie Irving, but a better locker room guy by reputation. He can do a lot of things to help a team on offense and with chemistry. But the Knicks, if you'll recall, not all that long ago, people were, beating their chest. They're about to sign Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving and this one and that one. And they wound up with no one. They wound up giving Julius Randle $10 million a year because no one else would take their money. Couldn't give it away. Now, they've established a healthy culture with Tom Thibodeau. And I think that high-priced free agents will be much more interested in going to the Knicks. But, of course, the Knicks have no room to sign anyone now. But they better hope that their tradable assets are attractive enough to other teams that it can bundle a bunch of them together to eventually get a superstar, because no one on this roster would be confused with a superstar. Not Julius Randle, who's a nice player, who's now locked in long-term at enormous money. Not R.J. Barrett, who's also a nice player, who has a chance to develop into something better than that. But we're, not Derrick Rose, who was once a special player and still a great sixth man. He's a tremendous player, but none of these guys are MVP best player or second best player on a championship team kind of guy. And Sam, that includes Kemba Walker. So it seems to me that there's a ceiling here on the way this team is constructed. And as a reformed Knicks fan, I can tell you, Knicks fans are used to it.
They may be used to it, but I will say, Max, this is a step in the right direction. You can't deny that. If I'm a superstar player, yes, they might not have the cap space right now, but I see Kemba Walker as my point guard. I get excited about that. I see Julius Randle, who's been playing well. I say, okay, I can play with that. I see Derrick Rose. I can mess with that. And so, yeah, I know KD may not have gone there in the past. I know you might not have seen Kyrie go there in the past. But now you're building a roster that if I'm a superstar player, I might could rock with a little bit. And so I think it's a step in the right direction, especially if we see 2018 Kemba, the Kemba back in Charlotte that was averaging 25 points a game, especially if we see that Kemba. We know who Kemba is in the locker room when it comes to culture. We know that. But if we see more offensive production from him like we saw back in his past, you might be able to build something special in New York with the Knicks. And so I understand it's not where we want to go right now if you're a Knicks fan, but you can't balk at this. You can't just kind of ignore this. It's like, hey, man, I like Kemba Walker with New York, with the other pieces you have around. RJ Barrett, maybe he gets better. You have the pieces in place. All you do need, Max, to your point, is that superstar.
Kemba Walker, Emmanuel Quickley, Derrick Rose at this point in his career, RJ Barrett, Julius Randle, Robinson. They have nice players. These are nice players. Guys that are easy to root for, who play hard. They're nice players. They will never sniff a conference championship, a conference finals appearance with this nucleus. They won't sniff a conference in the weaker conference. They won't sniff a conference finals appearance ever. So, they need more, much more. And the question is, are these commodities now that they have, are they viewed that way as assets or liabilities? Is Julius Randle's contract, will Kemba Walker be looked at a year from now, right, at the trade deadline? Are these assets that can be credibly bundled together to get a better player? Because in the NBA, you never want to break a dollar into 4 quarters, but you sure want to turn 4 quarters into a dollar, right? Or are they going to be sitting in a situation in the not too distant future like, damn, if we had some cap room, we could make a move, but we're capped out. No one wants these guys.
Well, these are assets. I believe these are assets. I don't think you're going to see Kemba Walker and say, man, this is a liability. Otherwise, he wouldn't be going to the team right now. It's almost like what we saw with LA. You saw a bunch of young players. It's like, man, are these assets, liabilities? They didn't fit. All of a sudden, bundled up, and you get a superstar. And so I think that the New York Knicks have some assets on their team that you can bundle up, in fact, and get a superstar. I'm with you, Max. They are a superstar away, but you have a nucleus now.
Yeah, 2 superstars away, but okay.
And who might those superstars be? We'll see if they can.
Michael Jordan and Shaquille O'Neal. That'll be fine.
Yeah, we'll see if that happens. But that's actually a good transition because they're on the older end of things, of life, of age. I don't want to insult anybody here, but experience over age is the mentality of the Lakers as they stack their roster for the upcoming campaign. Their biggest addition, 32-year-old Russell Westbrook. And then there's also 37-year-old Carmelo Anthony, who, by the way, is the same age as LeBron. AD, the final member of the newly founded Big Three, is 28. So this brings the age average down a bit, but listen to this, gentlemen. Once these moves become official, the Lakers will have 13 players on their roster, 8 of whom are age 32 or older. The average age of the players projected to be on their roster, nearly 33 years old, putting LA on track to have the oldest team in NBA history. And I just mentioned in the bottom, right now, Staples Center is being called the old folks' home. So, Sam, are the Lakers just too old?
I think they are. I really do. And it's not just because of age, because I think that with age comes experience. And I respect age. Max, as you know, I talked about LeBron and his experience. But I'm more concerned about the injuries. Like, that's where my issues come. One of your youngest superstars, AD, he's 28 years old, but he's been injury prone. He was out for 30 games last year. LeBron James, who's 36 years old, who's went to championship after championship after championship, he missed 26 last year. And then 2 years before, he missed 17 games in a row before we had to sit out the rest of the season. Carmelo Anthony, who we're glad that the Lakers fans are ecstatic right now. You got your shooter. He's 37. And so I'm not necessarily concerned about the age when it comes to experience. I'm more concerned about health. I'm high on the Lakers, but can they stay healthy? Max, you talk all the time about these hypothetical situations, assuming everybody in the world is healthy. We can't assume that, and so that's why you got to look at the age of these players and say, you know what? I think they're all talented. Russell Westbrook, 32 years old, super talented, but man, when you start getting older, the wear and tear on your body, we saw it this year with the shortened off season, people get injured. And so that's where my concerns come with this LA Lakers team. Are they talented? Yes. Are they old? I believe they're old, and that you're going to see it when it comes with some of the injuries that you're going to see this year.
That's right. You know, you can't deny that with age comes injury, although AD's always been injury prone. I don't know if his age has anything to do with it, and he's not old. He's in his prime, ostensibly. And Westbrook's been remarkably healthy, knock wood. And every year he's with new teammates on a new team. And in the first half, we're like, well, that's it. Age has caught up. And in the second half, we go, damn, this dude is like an MVP. So I expect that to continue. LeBron, 2 of the last 3 years, a normal Iron Man type guy has missed large chunks, and they've missed the playoffs and not advanced in the playoffs because of it, right? And he couldn't, well, they missed AD, but also LeBron wasn't at 100%. That's legitimate. But if you need to list the reasons the Lakers may not win other than a healthy Nets team, I wouldn't say age is number one. The number one issue is the shooting. Because you have 3 players who are going to get the majority of the minutes, right? You have 48 minutes at each position, 5 positions, and you're going to get a huge chunk of those minutes at 3 positions, often playing on the floor at the same time, with a guy in Westbrook who doesn't shoot it well, a guy in LeBron James who shoots it average for his position, you'd say, in today's NBA, and a guy in AD who you might say the same. They don't have enough shooting there. The best shooter on the team in the starting lineup is Wayne Ellington. Unless you start Gasol, who at times, given the matchup, was a little unplayable in these playoffs. Dwight Howard's not a shooter, obviously. They need shooting. They picked up Trevor Ariza, Monk. They picked up some guys, but they need shooting. And if those guys shoot it well, in fact, Talen Horton-Tucker is their most valuable kind of commodity going forward. The guy with the most room for improvement who you believe can fulfill excellent potential. And he's not a shooter. So they really, he might wind up this year being the 4th best guy on the team, and he doesn't shoot it. So age, yes, but if you're checking off age as the number one concern, I think you're overlooking the actual number one concern on this team.
Well, that's why you go and you add Carmelo, right? You add Carmelo. We know that Russell Westbrook drives. We know that LeBron at his best is going downhill. But you add a guy like Carmelo who can maybe expand the floor a little bit. And I understand shooting is still an issue, but I think LA is actually addressing the issue. Let's add Carmelo, THT, let's see what he can do. But we're making moves in the right direction. I think that, Milwaukee Bucks, they won the NBA championship this year. Their shooting wasn't excellent, and they found a way to win. Yes, you can talk about injuries, right? Injuries happen. But I think that Carmelo coming into this lineup with LeBron, with AD, who could take the last shot and help you win a game, with Russell Westbrook, I think is a formidable matchup. But age, in my opinion, is the biggest issue because, once again, it goes back to not only are you able to make the play, but are you available, right? Availability over ability. Yes, you could have the best shooters. If they're not available to shoot, it don't matter.
Carmelo was once a great scorer and is still an effective one. He's bad defensively, but he is not like a catch and shoot kind of guy. One of the reasons it looked like he was out of the league for a second, and I was fooled into thinking it, is because the landscape shifted under his feet, and he was neither a 3 nor D guy. He could hit a 3, but he's on ball, monopolizing it, running an offense, and so he didn't do any special thing well enough, people thought, to be a valuable role player. It turns out, actually, but he can still do everything well enough on offense to contribute. But that's not what I mean by he's not a catch-and-shoot 3 guy, which it's probably a pretty good idea to put on the floor with LeBron James and Russell Westbrook and Anthony Davis. Maybe not just another ball-dominant guy, right? They have issues in terms of fit and in terms of shooting, I think, that supersede age. I still like him out of the West. I said all that. I still like him out of the West.
Okay, well, the average age of the last 10 championship teams is 28.4. The Lakers, at this point, they're about 5 years above that. The last team to win a championship that was above the age of 30 as an average.
Bulls?
No, the Miami Heat, 2012, 2013, common denominator, LeBron James. We'll see how it goes. All right, guys, I got 3 words for you. Hustle, loyalty, respect. Those sound familiar? Overall erupted that, get this, landed starting quarterback Daniel Jones on the bottom of the pile. Head coach Joe Judge could be heard delivering an expletive-laced tirade to his team after this fight, and then he had his team alternate running laps and doing push-ups. So here's reaction from the Giants.
First day of pads, gets physical, gets chippy. Obviously can't have penalties. It's unfortunate. But I think everyone's protecting their sides and just try to establish physicality the first day, but we got to keep it, within rules. I'm going to pay my punishments. I don't regret anything I did out there. I was protecting my guys, so at the end of the day, I'm a grown man, and I pay my dues. That's what this league's about.
It's one of those things, again, like I said, you lose games for that reason alone. If anybody gets hurt down there, penalties, all those types of things, it's going to make you lose.
There's consequences for that kind of stuff, and that's the way it is in a game. If you lose your cool, there's consequences. That hurts the team. So that was the message, and I think everyone understands that.
Okay, well, whether it's a front or not, the guys seem to be pretty cool about what happened. But Max, I got to ask you, is it good the Giants are showing fight like this in practice?
Yeah, it could be. It could be good, as a matter of fact. I want to remind everybody of another high first-round draft pick at quarterback who wound up in a fight on the bottom of a pile, in a fight with a defensive player in 2015. It was in Carolina, and it was Cam Newton and Josh Norman. And Cam wound up on the bottom of a pile. And all they did that year, the Panthers, was go on to play in the Super Bowl. I'm not saying this is exactly the same situation. There's no perfect analogy, no perfect parallel. But Phil Jackson talked about, in one of those books, is about the stages of team building, Sam. And there's a certain stage, it's like stage 3, where guys want to improve, and they're in the process of coming together, us against the world, but it's still kind of individual. And I would apply 2 sayings to this. This is how the sausage is made, right? If you actually see it, you're like, oh, I don't know about this. But, that's how it's made. And never show a fool half a job. We're the fools and this is half a job. Joe Judge's style of leadership from the head coaching position is fiery, right? And he's a disciplinarian, but obviously he gets his guys to buy into this idea because that would fall flat most of the time. But obviously his team believes that the coach is actually putting them in positions to win. He has to get them to buy into, actually, this guy wants me to succeed, right? Or that style's not going to work. And this is a team that's showing a lot of fight, a lot of passion, even the way it was addressed afterward. This is something that it doesn't have to happen again, but the fact that you see this at this point in a team's development that seems to be ascending is not necessarily a bad thing.
Max, let me go ahead. You're reaching. Like you're like a little kid trying to like reach to like a little, the thing you do. You're reaching, Max. Like, let me just debunk a few of your theories. The 2015, Cam Newton was an MVP quarterback. No one's sitting here thinking that Daniel Jones is going to be an MVP quarterback. Ron Rivera is like coach of the year. No one's thinking that Joe Judge is going to be a coach of the year candidate, right? In the NFC, Ron Rivera was voted coach of the year. So let me, that's number one. Number 2, what we saw in 2015 wasn't a team-wide fight. You saw some people around the pile trying to pull away Josh Norman and pull away Cam Newton. That was different. What we saw yesterday was the entire team on the field, number 2. So that's not a good look. Number 3, you're doing up downs. You're doing push-ups. You're having to run as an entire team in the NFL. Like, that's what we did in high school, dude. Like in high school football, the whole team gets into a fight. All of a sudden you do up downs and you run, you're getting disciplined. And in college even, large amount of the team gets into a fight. So why we do up downs as a punishment? You are professionals. So there's a difference if you're fighting in order to establish a pecking order. 2015, once again, Cam Newton, he's the top dog. Josh Norman's coming in. Hey, he's a good player too. Let me show you what I'm about. You establish a pecking order. You see who's who. I had times in my NFL career where you're going against a guy, you get disrespected. You fight. You show that you are to be respected. But the entire team fighting, number 1, not a good look. The quarterback at the bottom of the pile, number 2.
I don't like that part either. I'd like the quarterback to not wind up at the bottom of the pile, for the record.
And number 3, Max, to say that this is a good sign of things to come and this is the team showing fight and showing grit and coming together, that's not what I saw. That's not what I heard. What I heard was similar to a couple years ago when I was playing in Chicago, got into a fight with some guys and they said, you know what, Sam, we're going to red dot you. What does that mean? We got our target on you. So we're forsaking practice and we're going to try and get our shot back on you because you got your shot on us. That's what we're seeing in New York. There's no team building. There's no pecking order.
I don't know. It's too early to say that.
No leadership.
Okay.
There's no leadership.
Okay. Let me hear this one. Where with the players?
So if you've got a good leader when it comes to the coaching staff or the players, fights like this, team-wide fights don't happen. They just don't, Max. In the NFL, no, you'll get DBs going against corners, right? Okay, because you compete every single day, so y'all go against each other. You'll get O linemen going against D linemen. You compete every day. You might even get some linebackers going against running backs. But you're not getting the entire offense and the entire defense together. A good leader on that team would have stopped that fight before it got started.
This is what I mean by never show a fool half a job. I thought I was the fool, and we were the fools. You played, and now you're the fool too? Look.
How am I the fool, Max? How am I the fool? Explain to me how I'm the fool here.
Because you may be right that they at that moment of that fight, they lacked the right kind of leadership in the locker room. The players did. You're right. But this is how the sausage gets made. This is not show the fool half a job. That doesn't mean that someone doesn't emerge. You have to give people the room to grow, a team the room to grow. You have to give young leaders a room to learn from experiences. And if you listen to the team, and we played some of the sound after the fight, it seemed like a learning moment. It seemed like a moment that has rallied the team together instead of ripping them apart. That's what I mean. Like, we're all the fools on the outside who didn't play the game. But I think everyone can be fooled in this situation. Just because that doesn't exist at the moment the fight happened doesn't mean that can't exist by the end of this season.
Max, I played the game. I've seen fights. That's not a fight you want on your team, point blank, period.
Yeah, it's not something that you want to see, but it was a small incident. The melee ensued. Daniel Jones said that he got involved for, quote, because he was part of the team. And he actually, apparently, from his teammates, has earned some locker room credibility after he did so.
Oh, look at that. See, Sam, look at that.
There you have it. So this could be a good sign of leadership.
This is what I will say.
They're going to the Super Bowl this year, Max?
No, of course.
Because of fight?
No, but I think they can win the division. I think the Giants can win the NFC East.
Stop, Max,
and
please. We ain't got time for this right now.
I also think that
you don't want to get into this ditch,
They can't do this again. If that happens again, I'll agree with you, but not just one time. No.
All right, guys. Yeah, we do have to go, but good conversation here. I like it. I like the feistiness. Okay,
come on, Big Blue, win the NFC East.
And now let's welcome in WWE superstar turned Hollywood superstar. He's playing the role of Peacemaker, as you can see in the highly anticipated DC film, The Suicide Squad, which hits theaters and streams exclusively on HBO Max this Friday. Ladies and gentlemen, he really needs no introduction. He is fully committed right here, Mr. John Cena. John, how you doing? We appreciate you going on out for the show.
Thank you very much. I broadcast live to you from the layer of peace. Don't confuse that with a layer of fight. They're closely correlated, but very different.
Max, you want to start?
What a cast. John Cena and Idris Elba. A shark? I saw a shark there. Directed by James Gunn. What do I... Okay, I'm in. What am I to expect here?
Here, expect the unexpected, and that's the crazy thing about The Suicide Squad. I've described this movie to everyone as like, well, what am I going to expect? The best way I can tell it is no one is ready to see this movie, but everyone needs the Suicide Squad in their life. They're going to be astounded and amazed when they go on this ride.
Well, John, you're known to be a nice guy. We all know that. But the character you're playing, Peacemaker, I know you to be a nice guy. But the character you're playing, Peacemaker, is a bully. It's like how do you get into character to play such a role?
Well, I mean, it's just the definition starts with the costume, and then obviously James has a wonderful vision for all these characters, and it just kind of goes from there. We have a lot of fun, and we really riffed back and forth a lot, so a lot of outtakes, probably a lot of wasted film. But at the end, you get a really well-defined character who you may think is a bully. I just think maybe he's a little confused and misunderstood and needs some guidance.
Expect the unexpected. Sam, expect the unexpected. He's already been through that. Expect the unexpected.
Well, speaking of expecting the unexpected, yeah, absolutely, and that's what I want to ask you about next. SummerSlam, you and Universal Champion Roman Reigns will be taking each other on. So what made you want to get back in the ring? Was there something that spoke to you, or was it something you had planned for a long time?
Oh, no, I've always wanted to be back. It's just when opportunities like this come along and I get to wear a wonderful home, you have to take it, and you just can't do both. And I think I've tried to be as vocal as I can explaining to fans that you cannot do both. When you film a movie, there's binding insurance, and they won't let you go back and forth. So I have a month now between the wrapping of Peacemaker and the shooting of Argyle over in the UK, and I wanted to return to my family. WWE is always my home. I'm a tried and true WWE superstar through and through. I always will be, and it's a place that I call home, and the audience is my family.
Well, one of the most famous wrestlers ever is like, there was a movie where I could dress up in a costume I couldn't say no to. You know, you got to go see the movie. John, I want to talk about the Lakers, though, because you're from Massachusetts, but you've been seen at Lakers games in Lakers gear. So first, so it's like a two-parter. Was that a heel turn, number one? And number two,
yes.
What do you think of the Lakers additions? What's your basketball analysis?
So, number one, according to whatever audience member you ask, I have turned evil so many times before, so that's up to perspective. Number two, we'll figure out how the Lakers do with all their acquisitions and whatnot. I'm really not in the mergers and acquisitions department. What I can say that I do love about the Lakers is they're 17-time champions. And that's the number I got my eyes set on, so I'm really is number 17 for me as well.
Well, John, so you're known to be a Patriots fan, and Matt Damon recently came out and said that if the Patriots and the Buccaneers were playing in the Super Bowl, he would root for Tom Brady. Well, they play in Week 4. Who are you rooting for?
That's a good question.
I would say I would root for Tom Brady in a Patriots jersey. I would wear a Patriots jersey and root for Tom Brady. And there'd be some sort of exotic dip involved. Chips, certainly, maybe some sort of like 12-layer queso.
Oh, I respect it. I respect it. Okay, go ahead, Max.
Wait. I just need a little clarification. Does that mean that you root for Tom Brady to do well, but the Patriots to win? Or you flat out want Tom Brady to beat your team?
I don't have any stake of ownership in the New England Patriots. So
not yet.
Claim that they're my team. I thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah, not yet.
Yay. But no, I just, I don't know. I'm not really a dedicated fan to a team. You know, New England fans are harsh, and I probably am stonewalling myself from ever returning to New England. But I just kind of like sports for the stories, as we all do. And when the stories are localized about Boston or New England sports, that region's fans get excited. And, of course, now the rivalry between the Patriots and Tom Brady makes that story a little more interweaved and more exciting. But I'm a storyteller, and I really like the dramatic atmosphere that sports uses as a backdrop, which is why I'm drawn to sports. But I can't bind myself to geography. I like to see teams excel, and I like to see certainly people like Tom Brady who can repeatedly excel at a sport, especially at his age and his output level. He's an anomaly. It's really something to watch him.
Listen to the eloquence and the sophistication in this getup. In this
it's a very strange dichotomy, huh?
Well, I got.
Baker was called a bully, and I said he was misunderstood, and I think now you guys get it.
Well, John, I got one more for you, just because you said you're a storyteller, right? So we see you big, bad wrestler, actor, right? The whole thing. But for you, what do you think is the greatest story that you've got a chance to tell?
Well, I appreciate the big, bad actor comment, because I would agree with you on half of that. I'm still trying to put some size on it, but the other half is good. I think it's our own story. And honestly, to get philosophical for a second, if I may, we all have our own story to tell, and we all live our own lives, and that should be important to the individual living their lives. I mean, you should be the lead character in your own movie, and life is kind of there for the taking, and I really am very proud of the story that I've been able to craft. And I know I'm just getting started. Hopefully there's a long way to go.
Okay, and John, I just have one quick thing I want to ask you. Who in WWE would you say you're most impressed with where you're now?
I always say the same thing. Vince McMahon, because he's so unpredictable. He keeps everybody in suspense. There's been a lot of crazy decisions lately. I don't know what the future of WWE will hold, but it's certainly exciting times, and I'm always impressed, especially returning, by his work ethic, by his commitment, by his passion. So I got to say, Vince.
For this business to be going on like this long in entertainment and to have changed as much as it has through the years with the times, unbelievable.
Well, and listen, I remember every time after we'd finish up a show, I'd always run into his trainer in the lobby of the hotel, and he would be there getting ready for their midnight training session. So Vince McMahon stays busy. He stays working. He is certainly undefeated. So, John, thank you so much for joining us. And the Suicide Squad hits theaters and streams exclusively on HBO Max this Friday. And, of course, John, good luck at SummerSlam.
Thank you. I won't bring the costume, and I'm going to need all the luck I can get.
Perfect. All right. Thank you so much. Now, still to come on First Take, the 49ers all the way to the Super Bowl in 2019, but after an up-and-down performance in that game and an injury-plagued 2020 season, the team added Trey Lance with the 3rd overall pick in April's draft. Jimmy G, however, responding well to the challenge. Here's John Lynch on his starting quarterback on the Adam Schefter podcast.
him being here, I think has brought the best out of Jimmy Garoppolo. Jimmy's a big time competitor, and we haven't played a game yet, but he's playing his best football since he's been here, and he's played a lot of good football. You just look at his record; it's something everyone's recognizing. He's really playing at a high level, and that's what competitors do when they're challenged. They rise to the occasion, and I think he's doing a great job of that. People say, "Well, what do you do if they're both playing great?" That's another great problem to have, and we'll deal with that when it comes.
Okay, that again, John Lynch on the Adam Schefter podcast. Max, let's start with you. Who gives the 49ers a better chance at a deep playoff run, Jimmy G or is it Trey Lance?
Jimmy G. Let's not forget, Jimmy G, it's not just that he went 2-0 in New England or something. He wins including the playoffs, 3 times as much as he loses when he starts. But because he's been injured so much, we also have a large sample of times when he doesn't start. So seems to be this impression that, Shanahan could do this with anyone and he's so replaceable. Well, if that were the case, then they wouldn't lose 3 times as much as they win. Same team. It's like a perfect experiment. Same team. Take Jimmy Garoppolo off, replacement player right there. They go from winning 3 out of every 4 games they play to losing 3 out of every 4 games they play. He is making quick decisions. He's doing things that are helping the team clearly. And I'll remind everyone, when last healthy for a whole season, he was in the Super Bowl, but not only in the Super Bowl, 1 pass away from beating Patrick Mahomes in the Super Bowl. 1 pass away. He didn't hit it. It was a perfectly designed play, just didn't hit it. Emmanuel Sanders, it's true. Maybe next time he does. Like that's a 50-50 kind of thing with a lot of Garoppolo's only like 50-50 to hit a ball like that. Oh, okay. So next time he does, right? He gives him a chance. Now, let's take that, a guy who when last healthy for a season, was in the Super Bowl with a chance to win, versus the history of the NFL. The history of the NFL is no first-year quarterback ever has been to a Super Bowl, has never been in a Super Bowl who started, ever. Never. Patrick Mahomes and Alex Smith. Patrick Mahomes! Like Trey Lance could be amazing. What are the odds he's Patrick Mahomes? Patrick Mahomes and Alex Smith, they went to the playoffs year 1 with Alex Smith. Patrick Mahomes held the clipboard. Next year, he set the world on fire. I expect the same thing here, unless Garoppolo gets hurt, and he's injury prone. But if he stays healthy, he's the guy.
Max, I love the perfect experiment you just painted, because I'll paint an even more perfect experiment. Let's go back to 2012, San Francisco 49ers. They had Alex Smith as their starting quarterback. Solid quarterback, actually above average, actually you could argue start quarterback. He was 3rd in passer rating. Then he gets injured in week 10. And who does he get replaced by? A more dynamic quarterback by the name of Colin Kaepernick. And what did Colin Kaepernick do during that year? Yes, it was a second year and he played sparingly in year 1 through 5 passes. But what did Colin Kaepernick do during this more dynamic player when he got a chance to get in? He only took them to the Super Bowl. The Super Bowl, Max. And so it's not about, okay, what was your passer rating last year and all this and all that. No, Trey Lance is a more dynamic quarterback than Jimmy G. At least that's what we all ascertain. A lot of us believe. Otherwise, we don't think the 49ers would have taken him. So Trey Lance, I believe, gives the 49ers a better chance of going further in the playoffs. Yes, we talk about injuries. Once again, Jimmy G, when healthy, is phenomenal. Jimmy G is also often injured. And so I believe that you're going to see Jimmy G start the season and play well, but all it's going to take is one little injury, and Trey Lance is going to get his opportunity. And you know what San Francisco is going to see? You know what John Lynch is going to see? Kyle Shanahan's going to see? They're going to see a super dynamic, athletic quarterback who can win games. It's going to fast forward and really backtrack to what happened in 2012 and said, man, you know what? Alex Smith, super solid, 3rd in passer rating. But I like my odds, man. I like my odds. This guy's got something about him. And so I think that Jimmy G can start, but I think that Trey Lance will get San Francisco further along than Jimmy G will.
And I just want to ask real quick, Sam, is it just one little injury that's going to make the difference, or a screw up on the field? Could that also be the difference maker?
No, it's an opportunity. All that Trey Lance needs is an opportunity. Oftentimes, you're a young quarterback, you don't even get that opportunity. Now, Russell Wilson, we saw in Seattle, he got it. He got the keys early on. But Patrick Mahomes, he sat his first year. He played in week 17, right? He sat year 1, but he got his opportunity year 2, and he shined. We don't know what's going to happen in Chicago. We all think that Justin Fields is going to sit, but I believe when he gets his opportunity, he's going to shine. Trey Lance, all that he needs is an opportunity. Jimmy G is a phenomenal quarterback, but he's often injured. And I believe that injury that may happen this year, hopefully he stays healthy, right? Nobody wants to see anyone get injured. But if he does, and Trey Lance gets an opportunity, I believe that Trey Lance not only is running with that opportunity, but he's going to take San Francisco further than Jimmy G will.
Than Jimmy G would have. They can't both play quarterback. I mean, if Jimmy G hurt, I think that's a pretty good prediction. I think something like that is likely to happen too. And I don't know that San Francisco knows exactly how good they are, which is why they moved up, spent all that capital to draft a quarterback, even though they have Jimmy G. He is injury prone.
So just say, Sam, you're right. Sam, you're right. That's what I'm hearing.
Well, actually, I was very specific. And you might be right about this too. You had a point you didn't even make, but you sort of alluded to. Eventually, one day, some guy in his first year probably is going to make the Super Bowl, right? Records are made to be broken, and maybe this will be the time. But if you're asking me what's more likely, a quarterback who, when last healthy, was one pass away from winning the Super Bowl, taking a team with a lot of the same guys on it deep into the playoffs, or a guy for the first time in the history of the NFL making a Super Bowl in his first year, I'll take the former. And your point about Kaepernick was interesting, because you finally got around to saying it was his second year. In Kaepernick's first year, what did he have, 5 passes? He didn't play. He was dynamic, but he didn't play instead of Alex Smith. That's another dynamic quarterback didn't. Patrick Mahomes, who didn't play instead of Alex Smith his first year. They learned. So in their second year, they were ready to set the world on fire. That ideally, I'm sure, for the San Francisco 49ers is what they hope for. Let Garoppolo stay healthy and let this kid learn, and then the next year he'll take us farther than Garoppolo could, hopefully, right? Although how much farther can you go? But
Max,
you're just saying, like, well, Garoppolo will get hurt. Yeah, sure, it's likely, and that's why they have a guy waiting in the wings. What's more likely? Garoppolo, if healthy, keeping the ball, or Trey Lance taking it from him?
Max, you love using qualifiers, so I'll ask you a simple, straightforward, point-blank question. What's more likely, Jimmy G staying healthy or Trey Lance getting in there and making plays?
Trey Lance getting in there and making plays.
So
Trey Lance getting in there and making plays.
There's your answer. There's your answer.
No, because then he has to keep the ball. Then Garoppolo has to be on the shelf permanently. They have to feel if Garoppolo misses a game or two and he can take the ball back and they're in a position to make a playoff run, are they going to hand it to a guy in his first year knowing that Garoppolo's one pass away from winning a Super Bowl and no first-year player at quarterback has ever taken a team to the Super Bowl, ever?
Records are meant to be broken. You said it yourself. I'll just reiterate what you said, Max. Records are meant to be broken.
Okay, well, let's switch it over to the NBA, and I have a statement that you both are going to agree on. That is, Russell Westbrook is great. He's a future Hall of Famer and one of the best players in the NBA, but his trade to the Lakers now lands him on his 4th team in 4 years, leading some people to wonder why he moves around so much. Now, Wizards and Capitals owner Ted Leonsis had this to say about the departure of Russell Westbrook. Quote, "We had a superstar player with the Wizards. He had an opportunity and wanted to be traded to the Lakers. And I was dealing with that as we were announcing Alex. I couldn't help but self-reflect on what a difference it is. Here's a great player in Russell Westbrook. He played at OKC, wanted to be traded, went to Houston, wanted to be traded, came to DC, wanted to be traded, and is now in LA. He's an unbelievably great person and an unbelievably great player, but that's the difference between the NBA and the NHL, I suppose." And I just want to clarify, when I said they were announcing Alex, they were talking about Alex Ovechkin, also a superstar in his own league. So, okay, Max. No. Let's start with Sam here. Are Leonsis' comments on Westbrook fair, or are they foul?
They're foul. They're all the way foul. It's out of bounds. Those are uncalled for. Let's not forget, if you want to talk about loyalty, like Max, you love basketball. Let's talk about loyalty. Russell Westbrook is loyal. He stayed in OKC for 11 years. The only reason he left is because everybody else was gone, right? Then let's talk about loyalty again in Washington. Let's skip over let's skip over Houston, right? Go to Washington. Go to Washington. The reason he wanted to leave is because Scott Brooks left. Like, he wanted to go follow his coach. He wanted to go win games. And all of a sudden, he leaves because they don't keep Scott Brooks. And so if anyone in basketball is loyal, Russell Westbrook is loyal. I think that the owner of the Wizards is just salty because they haven't won in a couple years. They haven't been in the playoffs. And before he got there, before this man on the screen got there, hadn't been in the playoffs in 3 years. Obviously, Alexander Ovechkin, superstar hockey player. But also, let's not forget, they won the Stanley Cup in 2018. Washington has not been winning. So he's salty because Russell Westbrook's trying to go win a championship. But Russell Westbrook is loyal. He's one of the most loyal players in basketball.
I think Leonsis' comment is fair, but I don't think he's making the point he thinks he's making. I don't think he's aware of the point he's actually making. The point is he's comparing two leagues. He owns teams in each league. And he's taking the more popular league, the league with a far larger economy, the league that has far more cultural currency. And one of the outgrowths of the fact that it's so popular is that players have gotten powerful, right? But if you want to make the point that fans actually don't want like a sclerotic, they don't want like a league where things don't happen where I think a lot of the interest in the NBA is fueled by off-season and even in-season rumors and actual transactions that go down where guys switch teams. It's exciting. So I understand his point. That's why I think it's a fair point. I just don't know that he knows the point he's actually making. He's pointing to a more popular league and pointing out something that is endemic to that league. Okay, fine. The NBA and the NHL are different. Would you rather be more like the NBA or the NHL?
Yeah, and he's pointing it out about a player who specifically stayed in a small market, like in Oklahoma City when James Harden left, he stayed. When Kevin Durant left, Russell Westbrook stayed. Like he signed an extra contract to stay. And so if you're going to talk about that with anyone, talk about it about not being loyal with anyone besides Russell Westbrook. That's my take. That's my piece. That's my opinion. Russell Westbrook, in my opinion, is the model candidate, model citizen when it comes to being loyal to an NBA team.
Okay, guys, we're going to hit one more subject before we get off the air because the Bulls, they're not messing around in free agency. Now it gets better with the franchise finalizing a sign-and-trade deal to acquire San Antonio Spurs forward DeMar DeRozan, a source telling ESPN's Adrian Wojnarowski. Yesterday, DeRozan, he plans to sign a 3-year, $85 million contract with the Bulls when the NBA's free agency moratorium is lifted Friday. In exchange, San Antonio will receive forwards Thaddeus Young and Al-Farouq Aminu from the Bulls, as well as a future first-round pick, that also according to Adrian Wojnarowski's source. Now let's not forget that there's guards Lonzo Ball and Alex Caruso also coming to the Bulls. So Max, with this roster transformation, what is the ceiling for the Bulls?
Second round of the playoffs. I really like this. First of all, the mid-range game has been undervalued to the point where they give it to you in the playoffs and guys are eating. That's DeRozan, right? And the addition of Lonzo Ball, what team does he not make better? Rebounds for his position, plays perimeter defense, can do all kinds of stuff defensively to help you and without scoring the ball, but can also really shoot, takes a lot of threes, hits a lot of threes, and is a next-level IQ genius passer. That doesn't work next to an underrated guy like Zach LaVine, and they have Vucevic too. The Bulls are kind of loaded. I think they can win a playoff series this season.
Max, bottom of the conference. Maybe they make it in the playoffs. Maybe they make it in the play-in. I'm not intimidated by anyone on this Bulls roster. Yes, they're better, but it's almost like that New York Knicks example you made. Who are you really saying, man, this is a killer superstar? This guy is going to take us to the top. I don't see it.
Oh, Zach LaVine can jump over the moon and shoot the lights out from outside. Well, there's one. Vucevic is a load. He's a top 3-4 center in the East. And then you just add DeRozan, who's been to multiple all-star teams, and Lonzo Ball is among the most underrated players in the league right now. That's a squad.
Okay, guys, well, we have to let things stay right there, but maybe a question for another day. Who do you believe in more, the Knicks or the Bulls? We might talk about that later in the week. Guys, thanks so much. Everyone, thanks for hanging. See ya.